Hello, and thanks for joining Your Body Advocate podcast. I am Ruth Cummings, your host, and today I'm interviewing my friend Lexi Soulios, who's a therapist and a growth strategist, and we talk about 3 of her 5 orders of systems for families. Today we talk about the order of belonging, precedence, and reciprocity. It's a really fun conversation. I hope you enjoy it. Let's take a deep breath to relax. Ready? All right, here we go.
You're listening to Your Body Advocate, telling your body's side of the story. The podcast dedicated to supporting and improving your body-mind connection so you can live a pain-free, passion-filled life, dissolving one body tension at a time. Discover the healing properties of your own body language, and together let's explore ways to support and improve essential self-talk. Now, here's your host, Master of Encouragement and Body-Mind Life Coach, Ruth Cummings.
Lexi Soulios is a therapist and growth strategist who helps leaders clear old patterns so they can reach their next level business, relationship, and life goals. Over the past 20 years, she has supported thousands of clients and students across 5 continents, including New York Times best-selling authors, C-suite executives, celebrity families, leading business coaches, and renowned healers. Her work has been featured in Forbes, the Huffington Post, Thrive Global, and OMTimes. Lexi lives in the mountains of North Carolina with her husband, stepson, and pack of oddball rescue dogs. Welcome, Lexi. How are you today?
I'm great, Ruth. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited about this conversation.
I know. I love what you do, and I know that you can help and bring so much to our listening audience. So, yeah, where would you like to start? We have so much to talk about and so much to start with. So you get to choose. What would you like to talk about today?
Well, something that I think could be a really interesting conversation for us to have specifically because of the kind of work that you do as well has to do with structure and flow. So one of the modalities that I use to help my clients is something called family and systemic constellation therapy. And that's a lot of big words to say that we are working with the deeper levels of systems, and particularly family systems. And what we see is that on those deeper levels, so like on the unconscious level of the family system, we see certain phenomena that are present in every single family over and over and over again. And those phenomena indicate certain natural laws that enable love to flow. So there are 3 particular kind of natural laws or orders that we see in the unconscious of family systems that when those are in place and being honored and respected properly, we see that love flows in a family system. Everyone has what they need to thrive. Everyone has a place of belonging. Everyone feels loved and supported in the family. So I'm excited to see how, some of what we see in the family system to do with structure and flow might be similar to the work that you do somatically with your clients and with the structure of the body enabling health and vitality to flow.
No, they go together so well. It's interesting you say systems because like we were talking about earlier, in my opinion, there's systems that we aren't really taught and we have to learn, but we learn from our parents and often they weren't taught either. So there's these bad ways. I don't want to say bad, but I can't think of another word that we go through life. And one of them is walking. How our body walks and runs, and just our structure. It's not quite, we've never been taught. And so it's not like it's wrong. It's not our fault, but there's this interesting way that we can learn how to do it wrong. And then we do that way for the rest of our lives. And so as a massage therapist through the years, I have learned that the system of walking, very simple system of walking, could have changed people's pain and suffering if they had learned that earlier. So that's just one system, but let's look at system of communication. system of finances. Kids aren't really taught how to, I'm working with, 25-year-olds who have never written a check, for example, or they don't know how to keep a balance of their finances, and just simple things that we're not taught in our society. And I think that, having simple systems is huge. Simple systems, but they're huge for all of us. And yeah, so what type of systems do you recommend? And yeah, how would you suggest, and what systems would you suggest?
Well, when I use the word systems, what I'm talking about is a group of individuals. And what we see with families is that, well, is that there is an intelligent field of energy that is containing the entire family system. And we can see that field of energy at work, Ruth, when we're looking at schools of fish or flocks of birds, and they all change direction at the same time, and no one's hitting into each other. And they've done studies to show that those movements of direction change happen so fast, there couldn't possibly be a communication happening in time to tell everyone in that flock or in that school of fish where to go. So they've shown that there's some kind of an intelligent force at work moving them all as one organism. And we see the same kind of thing happening in groups of people. And it's particularly strong in family systems, in groups of people in the same family. And that system includes ancestors. So it can include people, whether we were alive when they were, whether we knew them or not. But we're incredibly impacted by the other members of our family system.
I love that we're going this direction, because I talk about the fish moving at the same time, and how you can't tell, like this one over here and 100 yards away, this one moves at the same time. And it's so amazing. That is, Lexi, how the body works as well, because you can see, I was giving a demonstration just on Thursday in a massage class, and some trauma had happened in the class, and the class was actually canceled. So we were working on just individually, just trying to give them some support. And we were working with one of the students, and he was saying negative things about himself. And I was showing the students how there was a knot in his shoulder. And as soon as the second that he said some positive things about himself, that muscle relaxed.
Wow.
And it's the same thing, like that. Not only will that muscle relax, but other muscles relax. Unfortunately, the next statement he said was negative again, and it came back. So the system definitely works. It's such a flow of energy, and it's just amazing. And I don't think we understand it very, very well, but we're getting there. But the good thing to notice, and how people out there can change their lives immediately right now, is by having positive thoughts about themselves. And then that can flow throughout their entire body.
Definitely. Yeah, that's beautiful. I love how, what you just shared really illustrates the intelligence in these organic systems, right? It's like he had a positive thought, and the tension was able to go. And when the negativity returned, the intelligence of the body just came online immediately and reflected that thought for him.
It's interesting, because I can see now, as we're talking about, like you're talking about family systems, and I'm talking about just one body, but that goes, it definitely is felt energetically throughout a family, in this example. But let's say that you so he has a good thought, and the body relaxes for that 10-second period. And then when he has a negative thought, the protective armor comes back. And I see that, and I would love your take on this, that there are people who, in a family setting, who protect the family. And I think there's also different parts of our own body that protects the family, or like our family as a body and our family as a whole. And so in that time, you are when you're protective like that, you're not as your immune system comes down, your ability to communicate love goes down, your ability to receive love goes down. And so there's this system of just staying as protected as possible, but it's not as free and flowing as we want it to be, because we could access such power and such compassion for each other. That's so easy to communicate and share if our defenses are down. But all of us are in this defensive mode because of our society and things that we've gone through as children, and what our ancestors have gone through, and what we learn through our generations. And then, so I think both of us were on a mission to really support us to be somatically calm, but energetically strong. And if you can find the middle ground of allowing your body to relax, but still be as strong as possible without going like this. And I think our society has lost the ability to calm down, but be energetically protected. What say you about that?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm working on such deep levels with people, like the unconscious of the family system. And then I also do a form of therapy that involves the unconscious of a person, like it's called Hakomi therapy, and involves really dealing with the unconscious from what we have lived through in our own lives. And what I see is that when we're working on levels that deep, typically the protection is there for a reason, and it's there because of love for the organism, love for the system, trying to keep things safe. And because there was a danger at one point, and the part of us that is in hyperprotective mode is having trouble letting go because it doesn't know, oh, things are safe and we can let that armor go right now. And when we actually give attention for a few moments anyway and we give support to that protective mechanism. So like you made a motion with your body where you tensed up your shoulders and everything. Yeah. So what we would do in Hakomi is we would actually have an assistant come and hold the person tight to take over that bracing. And then you'll watch the person just totally relax. It's like that armoring, that protective mechanism is happening, so they don't have to hold it. And then they can like relax, and now they can have memories and new awarenesses come to them.
Oh, I love that. Yes. That's what I do in my sessions too, is to hold people in the position where their body feels safe, but have them do that without the body being tense. And that's so cool that we're doing that at the same time with people. And if I lost my thought. I thought I was gonna. So tell me more about Hakomi.
Hakomi, so it's a really gentle, body-centered psychotherapy is how it was described initially, but now it's really described as assisted self-study. So it's really supporting someone to study themselves from a place of loving curiosity. And we use experiments and mindfulness. So for example, with that situation of someone like holding somebody's body up nice and tight, the person who's bracing themselves, and we take over that bracing movement. If the person studies themselves while that's happening, then they're able to see like, oh God, I feel relief, or oh God, I have a memory come up of when I was young and my dad was in the kitchen yelling, banging pots and pans, whatever, So really that level of studying ourselves unearths so much information that oftentimes is just kind of gone underground and has become part of our operating system. but is really hard to access through conscious means. So when you get into that state where you're doing the self-study and you have support for whatever's happening in your body, so much information comes and you can really go to some deep healing places.
Yeah, and I love that. That's definitely resonating over here. And, for me, I believe when we're doing that for people and for ourselves, doing that self-study, as you call it, I love that word. I believe that there's a search for safety. And when we can find that safety and match safety with body relaxation, then I think whole new levels of living can blossom. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I remember my first teacher telling me, my first Hakomi teacher telling me that no healing could happen, like nothing therapeutic, nothing helpful would happen without safety. Safety in the session is the number one thing that has to be established. And if safety's not there, nothing like helpful for the client is going to come out of it. So yeah, I really feel like that is key. And so much vitality is able to flow when there's safety. Like we've heard so many times about women who weren't able to get pregnant, right? When they were like working and they took some time off from work and then they are able to conceive. I think it's like the body's like, okay, this can flow now. Like it's safe to have children and all of that.
Oh, that's a huge one where, I've actually worked with several women and couples who can't get pregnant, and sometimes there is some safety within themselves, not even like a work environment, but maybe one of the partners hasn't looked at some anger from their past, and they're quick to anger in small situations, and it scares the other partner or it scares them. And when they actually look at that, and for me, when they find it in their body, they look at it, they find it in their body, and they calm it, then pregnancy or conception is much more possible. But yeah, I think that safety, the lack of safety, causes so many issues just in our society within the family structure. If one person doesn't feel safe to speak, if their parent is overbearing, like looking at all their texts, wanting to know everybody and everything that they're doing, I think that it can, that creates this boundary of lack of safety between the parent and the child. And I work with a lot of teens who, once they have that safety and the parent realizes they can back off, that their kid is safe, even if they don't hover, huge changes can be made, and more deeper relationships can be found. And I find the same thing with teams in leadership, in company leadership, that a lot of the lack of communication, lack of trust, and the lack of being able to come together as a partnership, or as creating these alliances within a high level leadership, happens because of these misunderstandings. And then when they actually look at it, that they can change the whole dynamic of an entire company by one or two or three leaders actually trusting each other. And those are so cool to watch that evolve. And it can evolve so quickly, like once you tap that the one reason maybe that they're not communicating, and both sides recognize their responsibility in that lack of trust for each other and why it happened and how they can start from right now, then forgiveness happens very quickly. And all of a sudden it's some amazing changes can happen within a company. And that's like the energy that happens. Just all of a sudden there's trust. All of a sudden it's like, wow, how did that happen? And it truly is, if the leaders of a family and leaders of a corporation show trust in themselves and in one other person. Same with one of my favorite trust conversations is one of my football players I worked with who was having a hard time getting his team to just work together. And he started touching everyone on the shoulder and saying, "Hey, I trust you, man." And it's the cutest story because I said, "They're going to look at you weird." And they did. They were like, "All right." But within 2 weeks, they were all touching each other on the pads and saying, "I trust you, man. I trust you, man. I trust you too." And it was so amazing what it created. And it was like the last couple of games of the season, but they did really, really well. And besides doing well, besides winning, they loved each other. And I think that those players now are lifetime friends. It was just interesting how that just the spreading of trust is like that energy and just goes whoop, and it's so amazing. So,
Yeah, like change the culture so quickly.
yeah.
That's beautiful.
So
I found it really interesting that you mentioned leaders and families, and and you're drawing some parallels between organizations and family systems. And at the beginning of this conversation, I talked about some like kind of hidden or underlying some deeper phenomena that we see in systems that when those are in place, it enables love to flow through the system. And I'm wondering if I could share
Lexi,
a couple of those.
hey Lexi,
Yeah.
sure. I missed the last 30 seconds. So we talked, you said then it cut out. So the last thing I heard you say is like, I like the parallel that you brought between family systems and leadership systems.
Okay.
And then it cut out.
Okay. So I'll start again.
Yeah.
So I love the parallel that you're making, the connection you're making, Ruth, with family systems and organizations, because at the beginning of this conversation, I mentioned that there are some deeper phenomena that we see in family systems and how when those are present, it enables love to flow for everyone. And I'm wondering if I could share 3 of those, because I feel like they'd be interesting, for this conversation and for your community.
Yes, please.
So the first natural law or phenomena that we see in family systems, and these are all true, that they need to be honored in organizations as well. And that's why I'm so excited that you brought organizations into this conversation. So the first phenomena that we see, or kind of natural law or order, is called the order of belonging. And it's everyone who has ever been part of a system has the right to belong to that system. You can never act as though someone never existed. There needs to be an acknowledgement that they were part of the system. And so in families, how we can see this get out of whack is, let's say it's a very religious family and one of the grown children is a homosexual and is banished from the family, and they want to act like that person doesn't exist anymore. You can't do that. That person has a right to belong to the system. And if someone is like excommunicated from the family or tried to be erased from the family, it will cause problems with later generations where someone will carry the burden of that homosexual ancestor or of whoever was erased, forgotten, ignored, cut out. Later generations will carry burdens for them, and they may actually feel like they don't belong. They'll just have a sense that they don't belong to life. They don't belong to the family system. And it's because the family, that intelligent energy field, is maintaining this memory of who was a part of this system and how the family system needs to right this problem that someone was like cut out of the family.
This is fascinating, Lexi, because the word belonging in what I do is if someone doesn't feel like they belong or any belonging, that's actually a word in my stuff that I use. Their low back could hurt. their sacrum could have issues. They might have painful periods. They might have hard time digesting things because they don't want to actually digest this issue, or they don't want to assimilate it into their body. So there'll be problems right in that area of the low back, right where the belt is. Anything in there. There's so many, there's a large intestine, there's the liver, so there's possibly some anger issues. There's the kidneys, which hold fear. The worry is in the front of the stomach. So like, it's a huge area. And then it goes down into our sexual organs and into the bottom of the like sciatic pain. Not belonging is like, huge. Those go hand in hand. And I love what you're telling us. What's number two?
Number two is the order of precedence. So there needs to be an acknowledgement of who came into the system first. So, for example, if you have two parents and children, the parents get a divorce, say, and then one of the parent remarries. Well, the new spouse and the parent who remarried can't act as though the previous spouse never existed. There needs to be an acknowledgement that she or he came first, that they were the first love or the first spouse and the parent of the children. You can't just act like, the people that come into the system later were there first. And so it's similar in companies where you'll have people come in and they can be very judgmental of the previous leadership and not honor, okay, maybe I do things differently than the previous leadership, but this leadership was here first. And so I need to honor that they were here before me. And it can be really simple. It's just an acknowledgement of precedence. It's the same with parents coming into a system before the children. And so what creates good health in a family system is when the parents tend to their relationship dynamic before their relationship dynamic with the children. You'll hear about parents, like moms especially, just suddenly kind of connecting with their children and forgetting about their husband. And, for a little while, right after the child's born, those kinds of things are, hormonally kind of wired in, and it's understandable. But if that goes on too long, the husband and wife, the parents are going to start really struggling because they're not attending to their dynamic first. So there needs to be an acknowledgement of who came into the system first and tending to those relationships.
Wow, that's so important. I think we know that's important, but I'm loving hearing this in this order of natural law. So that would be, for me, that would be in communication, so their neck. And then I would say that would be the power area, which is right under the rib cage. And it fits in the same area. So like that could cause issues there in their body. Someone is too powerful. They usually have pain in the middle of their back, and they're also not communicating. So they could be either have neck pain, and that neck pain causes like headache, jaw pain, sinus headaches, migraines, all kinds of issues that the neck can cause when they're not communicating. And so this is fascinating, Lexi. I love how this goes together. And the natural law, we don't pay attention to the natural law. Sometimes we like it to go away. Like it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't apply to our family. And that's an interesting.
And our society doesn't really support us with that at all. We're such a melting pot, especially in the United States. We're such a melting pot, and we don't have a lot of customs to honor our elders, to really maintain good health in our systems, in our structures. So
it's interesting. So some more, what are some traditions that you would recommend that could help honor our elders?
Well, there are certain rituals that we'll suggest in family and systemic constellation therapy. One of them is bow to your parents and to your elders. So, in the Bible, it's honor their mother and father. And there's a lot of wisdom and health in that. And so honoring your mother and father, how we see it, is not about saying, hey, you're narcissistic and toxic and abusive. Let me get real close to you and take all that on and be your punching bag. It's not about that. It's actually like, we can take distance if we need to from our parents, but it's being able to look at the truth of how our life comes to us. Our life comes to us through our mother and father. It can't come to us through anyone else. And we need to understand that our parents are bigger than we are, and they can carry their own burdens. So if our parents have anger issues, if they have grief, if they are toxic, if they have unmet needs, whatever those things are, if we bow to our parents, we are saying, this is for you to carry. You're big. I'm little. I'm just putting myself in the river of life so that I can receive life force. I can receive belonging. I can receive love. I can receive prosperity. I can receive the essential energies that come from source down the family line through you to me. But I can't carry the bigger burdens that are yours to shoulder.
Wow, that's amazing. My family, we do honor our parents, and we have them around quite a bit. But my kids have been complaining that we don't have rituals and traditions based on that, or really honoring that. And so I'm gonna implement some right now and see how we can really, because it's really important, I think, not just and what do you say about this, Lexi? Like, what if it's not like our parents, but still they're honoring in our life, they're maybe teachers or they're godparents or neighbors or somehow important, adults, important mentors. How do we honor them in the same way?
Well, it's not the same way because it's not as deep, but we do honor them. We can bow to them with respect. And when I say bow and I talk about the ritual of bowing, that is a ritual that we do a lot in this particular kind of work. Like, we actually physically bow, but the word bow can also be sorry, was there a problem with the audio?
No, well, I keep getting notifications and
Okay.
and I haven't turned those off, and I really don't know how. So I'm just laughing at myself that I can't turn it off right now, and it's dinging in my ear. I'm sorry I won't make a face. I'm just slapping myself for not having turned that off, and I don't know how. Do you know how?
I don't know. It depends what kind of computer you're on and what notifications and everything. If they're Chrome or computer ones or.
Right. There it goes again. Can you hear that?
No.
Okay, good. Okay, good. I thought it was bothering you, but if you can't hear it, we're good.
No, I can't hear it.
Okay, I'll take that off too. So
I was talking about bowing, and it may just be hard for Leo to edit it, or whoever edits it.
So talk about traditions, about maybe how to bowing. You're saying, physically to bow, like even to mentors or to parents, but how is that involved with like daily living? Can we bow without bowing?
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. So it can be symbolic too. So what is an act of honoring? What's an act of acknowledging? So really acknowledging not only the presence of our mentors or our elders in our life, but also acknowledging how that they've impacted us. So the impact that they've had on us is, very healing. It's very bonding. It's really putting things in their proper order and helping everyone to feel their value in the system.
So if you're just doing acknowledgement and it's not a bow, is it just actually word of acknowledgement, or how does one create that honor?
It could be a quick note, right? Just a note that you send to them. It could be putting something of them on your mantle, or if you have an altar, on your altar. It could be just acknowledging them when you're with them, saying, you were the first person that told me I could do that. And I wanted you to know how much that meant to me.
Nice. Okay.
So
those are great.
Yeah. And if there's someone in our life that we love who suffered, we can tell them, in honor of what you went through, I'm going to do something special. I'm going to do something special in honor of you and in honor of what you went through. And that can help them feel like what they went through isn't in vain. It's not causing more suffering down the line for you and your children, but it's actually creating something positive moving forward.
That is very interesting. So if someone has a family with a homosexual kid, and so they are, if a parent is having trouble assimilating or accepting their child, but they're ready to acknowledge energetically, perhaps, or just they're starting the process of acknowledgement, do they have to do it to the person? Can they do it just generally and like in a prayer, or, you know what I mean? Like, how can they start that? I hear this conversation, that they're not, there's a break in the family because of something like that. And not just that, maybe there's an abusive person and they don't want to, and there's this break where you're abusive, so you have to stay over here, or you're, whatever the something that they're shaming this person for. But then they're like, okay, I love you again, or I want to start accepting you again into the family. How does that, what's the beginning steps for that?
Yeah, well, it's real different for abuse versus if someone's homosexual or someone has a lifestyle choice you don't agree with, or that kind of thing, right? So
like
if
religion,
you're a parent,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but for like religion, or so not going to church anymore, and then the parents do go to church. That's very common right now. You have so how do you do this again? Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, well, really, it is the parent's job to kind of work things out, work out their ability to.
So it starts with them, correct?
It really does.
Okay. I just want to confirm that. I feel that on my side too, and like but I just wanted to confirm with you as a therapist, knowing that and just going through that with people. It is prevalent in our society at the moment. So how do we create love and kindness through this painful, but doesn't need to be painful type of situation? I mean, that is just with differences of opinions, but like if someone is abusive, I totally agree. Or if that's very, very different. And, but in the case of just having different opinions, even political opinions, people are like, entire families are like split. It's like, what? Or, so to bring that together, the parent needs to begin the healing process.
It's what I've seen as phenomena. What I've seen is that the children can love their parent unconditionally, but the parent just innately has more power in the family system because parents are big and children are small. Parents came into the system first, and they're larger than their children, which actually brings me to the third phenomena that I wanted to share today, or the third natural law, or we call them orders, which has to do with reciprocity. And so typically in relationships, we see there's a sacred reciprocity, right? Where you and I are friends, Ruth, you give something to me, I need to give something back to you. And on we go like that, giving to one another, and it creates a healthy flow. It increases our bond, our trust, all of that. Well, in family systems, parents are giving so much to their children. Children can't possibly give back to their parents what's been given to them. So the way reciprocity works in family systems is that parents give to their children, children take, and then those children grow up and give to their children.
I see.
And then their children grow up and give to the next generation. And so that's how we see reciprocity flowing properly in the family system dynamic. And inherent in that is this understanding that parents are big and children are small. And so what we see is that life force flows to us from source like a river flows down a mountain, because every ancestor is larger than their children, right? So it creates this mountain. And so it's like life force is flowing from source down that mountain through our parents to us and to our children. And so when we are talking about things like where the parent isn't accepting the children, parents need to be able to be big enough to carry what's theirs, to carry their own prejudices, to carry their own healing work that they have to do without putting that on the children. And we see that, or the terminology that we use in this work in family and systemic constellation therapy is that our elders are always greater than us. Our ancestors are always greater than us. And so if you think of the word great meaning big, you know, they were able to give birth to us. We couldn't give birth to ourselves. They're bigger than us. They're greater than us. But we and our children will take the line further than it's ever gone before. And in that way, we become great too.
Okay.
So these children that are maybe homosexual or exploring gender non-binary stuff, or are exploring stepping out of religions or everything, we need to understand that's part of them taking the line into a new horizon, into more evolution, into a new future. And so there really needs to be, you know, a respect for both positions, the elders' position and the children's position.
Right. Yeah. So if the I really get that. And I like how the mountain is created by the bigger, and then it comes down, and respecting both sides, but starting with the parent.
It's what I've seen, you know. If there's judgment, if there's unkindness, if there's a lack of love, it's going to affect the children, and the children can't really do anything to change their parents. So if there's going to be healing in that relationship, the parent needs to really step into their role of doing that.
Okay. Well, these are amazing. So the first three, which I can imagine, the next two are really good too. So the order of belonging, the order of precedence, and then is it called the order of reciprocity?
Yeah, it's called like the orders of love, or what these phenomena or natural laws are called. And so the first order is belonging, the second order is precedence, and the third order is reciprocity.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Those
And when those are in place, you'll find love flows naturally. When you feel that your parents are bigger than you, you know, think about children whose parents are confiding in them, and who their parents aren't able to pay the mortgage, or they're having affairs and telling the kids about it and getting them all, you know, involved in stuff. Totally dysfunctional, totally harmful for the children. So change that and see parents who are self-responsible, keeping their private matters to themselves. They're getting their own therapy work. They're getting their own support systems to deal with their personal stuff. Then the children are free to just be children, you know, and they can move along healthy developmental lines until they're grown up, and then do the same for the next generation. So what we see is when these orders are in place, that love tends to flow effortlessly. People tend to feel healthy. You know, similar, I guess, to how you were talking about like walking and stuff. And I imagine how the skeletal system and the muscular system, when that structure is properly in place, it supports the health of the system, and energy through the meridians, the blood flow, all of that.
Exactly. It's interesting because, I would call it alignment.
Love that.
If you have alignment like that, and then you have alignment through the natural laws and natural orders, you're going to be really powerful and, flow really well and communicate really well and influence really effectively. And it's interesting because the blocks of money, money coming to us as an energy, or it can be stopped by any of these. And also our relationship with God, like that can also be stopped by any of these steps that are not in line, not aligned, not flowing well. And so we can feel stuck and kind of like we don't know our purpose, or we don't feel deserving if some of these are blocked. And I think that what you just mentioned, this really helps me because I can pinpoint several people who have explained one of these three not being in line, and then their body won't heal, and like simple injuries, an elbow injury, a neck injury, but that it's chronic after a while. And, they've tried everything with the Western medicine style of helping the body, which is amazing, but sometimes it misses the point, or it misses the mark. Mm-hmm. And then the person is left with, how to support, how to heal. And I think these are amazing. Like they can really help people maybe understand, like self-study and say, oh, wait, maybe that would be better if I didn't tell my kids all my problems. Maybe we'd have a better relationship, or they would feel stronger. Maybe if I could, whatever it is. So there's a lot of ways that we can get in line with these orders, and also your body, like learning to walk. If you go to a physical therapist or personal trainer or someone who can teach you that, there's gait therapists that teach you how to just have your, healed toe. And there's some of us that don't, that's a very basic example, but it's a huge example because we all walk. Most, 99% of us walk every day. And if we're lucky enough, right, to walk, to be able to walk, and it's very important. So it's interesting how these basics of being a human are very challenging. They're very challenging. And I wish a lot of this was in kindergarten, or grade school. At least we learned how to, like, I was, at a Southwest flight, you line up, what number are you? It always feels like I'm in kindergarten. Like, you're number 22. Okay. I'm number 23. So I'm behind you. It's very simple, but it makes life flow easier. And so that's another simple example, but it's really important. So I love these orders, Lexi, very amazing. Anything else you want to share with us today?
Just, these are really deep, concepts and deep things to work with. And I'm saying them like, it's just a quick thing, and it can come out like, kind of like a judgmental morality thing. And it's really not. And, so I invite, any listeners, if they've heard something that is triggering, about parents being big and children being small, or, those kinds of things, to reach out to me. Happy to talk to anyone about it, help them kind of understand how it may or may not apply to them.
Well said.
And also just to, kind of an invitation for everyone to take what you've heard today and see how it can be helpful for your life. And if it doesn't feel helpful, just let it drop away, because like I said, these are kind of deeper concepts. And if we were working together, or, we were all together in a workshop, I could show and point out things that would enable you to see this kind of stuff in action. And so because we're not able to do that, we're just having a short conversation. If anything feels like a moral judgment, to just let it, that's not helpful, just kind of let it disappear from your mind. But hopefully you can connect with the truth of the way some of these might be moving in your your own system and in your own life.
No, well said. I mean, these are deep concepts, and I wish we had more open conversations as a society where we could, I like how Crocodile Dundee says to talk to your mates. Long ago, but if I'm sure some of you have never seen that, but it's just a cute, just to talk to our friends. And sometimes it's not not a safe space. So I wish that we had more safe spaces in our friendships and in our families to have deep discussions. But that's why we're here, Lexi, because it's not easy, and these things can trigger a lot of a lot of things in a lot of us. And I too am here to support. And so how do we get a hold of you if they do want to communicate with you or learn more or find out more how to work with you? How do they do that?
So you can come to my website, lexisoulios.com, or my Instagram account, which is at lexi.soulios.
Okay, great. Now we're going to have all of these in our show notes. Could you spell Lexi Soulios for people if they can't get to the show notes, please?
Sure. So Lexi is Lexi, and Soulios is soul. So SOUL, and then IOS, SOULIOS.
Perfect. I have one more question for our short conversation today, and that is, can we do this again? Will you meet me again?
Yes, absolutely. I'd love to. Yeah. I so respect you. And, I could see the impacts of you. You were working with people at the conference that we were at, and everyone was raving about your work. And, I could see the impact you were having on them. So it's an honor to be able to connect with you here and have this kind of a conversation together.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for saying that, Lexi. And also, I feel like we've unpacked about one of many, many boxes that we could talk about. And it's so fascinating. I'd like to see how we can help more people and talk about more things that are really interesting that people may not have ever considered. So it's just an honor to have you here. And I can't wait to have you here again.
Thank you so much, Ruth. Same. So glad to be here.
Yes. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. And we will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Your Body Advocate with Ruth Cummings. We're so glad you've joined us today and truly believe you can live a pain-free, passion-filled life. To connect with Ruth, work with Ruth, or to grab your free ebook, go to ruthcummings.com. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. Until next time, friends, be open, include the unincluded, think outside the box, and spread love and kindness one smile at a time.